After all the wonderful talks since morning, mine is going to be a really, really short one, more of a story of my personal journey in changing how I learn. Display. Okay, there seems to be a slight, okay, attach it. Okay, good morning, good afternoon, sorry. It's a pleasure to be here and an honor to be presenting at edX. Okay, I'm going to be looking at my slides now and then because I've added few stuff since morning and I don't want to miss them out. This is a short talk on how Web 2.0 tools, popularly known as social media, has helped me build my learning network and the professional that I am today. George Siemens a while back referred to this as one of the paradigm shifts, and I think it indeed is. At least for me, it has been one. I feel as educators, social media can be our gateway to professional and personal development. Just yesterday, we heard about the challenges of training and upskilling teachers, and they're sadly in short supply. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we could use some of these tools to design our own learning and take charge of our own development? This is just a short story of how some of the tools that I'll show you all here helped me do that, and I hope it might help a few of you all as well. For me, social media is an important component of continuous learning and growing as an individual, as well as a professional. In the interest of time, I'm going to keep this really short, and I would like to pay forward what I've learned from my network and pass on the message to other educators in India. So here is how the story starts. It was December of 2008 when I stumbled onto Twitter. I didn't know then how fortunate and revelatory it was going to be for me. I created an account, logged in now and then, saw updates of breakfast cereals and cute pets, but then I saw glimpses of conversation that completely fascinated me. And a tweet streamed by talking about a learning resource, a blog post, or a conversation. And one day following such a thread, I literally stumbled onto a gold mine. This was what I call my discovery period. I discovered people like Marcia Connor, Jay Cross, Jane Bodzak, Jane Hart, Harold Jarchi, the IT Alliance, and that dramatically changed how I learn. These are people whose blogs and books had been inspiring me so far, and I had not deemed it possible to really connect with them. And I realized I could do so, and quite easily. Of course, once I got over my nervousness and fear, which sort of ruled the day at that point. But this was perhaps the most profound insight for me was all I needed was a computer and an internet access and if I had the passion and the drive, I could reach out and learn. And I was suddenly catapulted into a world that had been beyond my reach till then. Though it took time for all of that to sink in, and for me to understand how I could use this access and reach to further my learning. But here again, I think I was lucky. It was like a godsend, and what was made easy for me was a community of practice called LearnChat, a community of practice of learning professionals who meet on Twitter, virtually. And my learning journey would be incomplete if I didn't tell you all how I interacted with this and how it helped me. So once a week, at a designated time, tweets carrying the hashtag LearnChat would flow, literally flooding the stream. I followed this with amazement. I didn't dare participate. Questions at pre-designated moments popped up, and learning professionals from all over the world responded, sharing their experiences, stories, and learning. I sort of lurked and learned from the stream, and what I learned could easily fill the day. And I must say, without exaggeration, that what I learned from these shared experiences in 6 months, I had not learned in the prior 6 years of plodding alone. I was truly experiencing connected learning and being a part of a community of practice, a virtual community of practice, and I had not thought that possible. And eventually I realized that learning doesn't happen without participation. It took me some time, but I garnered enough confidence to begin participating. I moved from lurking on the edge to the center where the conversations were taking place. The more I interacted, the more confident I became. I realized that my challenges were not mine alone. I began to connect the dots and depend on my network to help me solve my challenges. And these could range anything from designing e-learning modules to handling recalcitrant clients. We shared our woes, strengthened our practice, and my network became my outbound brain. I began experiencing the power of collaborative learning. And after this, I was really excited. I was excited to explore all the avenues opening up before me. I familiarized myself with and began to use the various tools to connect and learn. I started keeping a blog, initially sporadically, later a little more systematically, but I'm still sporadic. But I started recording my reflections. I used Delicious to save my links and tag them, Twitter to converse and find nuggets of information, and more. YouTube, Flickr, Facebook all became a part of my growing but connected learning network. I had never really felt so alive and so much a learner. It was more like an adventure. But was this overwhelming? Yes, it was. Till this happened. You may well wonder how I kept track of this all and not get lost in the deluge of information. I must admit it had started to happen when I found this model by Harold Jarkey, created by Harold Jarkey, and started using it as my personal knowledge management tool. With a bit of discipline and organization, I found ways to streamline the information flowing my way. This framework, combined with the Web 2.0 tools I showed in my earlier slide, helped me build my personal learning network and make sense of the information. They helped me see the patterns. They helped me see how social objects can become great learning conversation tools themselves. And I realized that, well, I was becoming a connected learner. And this was also the time when I was participating, or rather, again, lurking on the connectivism courses. So while I had been theoretically familiar with the theory of connectivism that George Siemens wrote about as early as 2004, I began to experience its true impact during my journey into social media-aided learning. Even as information doubled, tripled, and quadrupled, change became the norm, exceptions a reality in the world of business, I learned how being connected and building my learning network can help me learn from the experiences of others, stuff that I just could not do alone anymore. And I realized it was not important for me to know everything. I just didn't have to. I just needed to reach out to my network, to connect with them, and that would help me solve my challenges, a large number of them at least. If not, we could always talk together and devise new ways of doing things. This seemed to me to be the only way to keep on top of the change and complexity that was bombarding us, and that still is, and is going to increase manifold. In the path-breaking article, Minds on Fire, Open Education, The Long Tail, and Learning 2.0, John Seeley Brown and Richard Adler writes about the importance of learning to be. And I think this phrase resonated and stuck with me, and it has been one of my key phrases that I tell myself, that learning to be is about full participation, is about becoming a true contributing member of a community of practice, learning together and contributing to the growth of that knowledge, which is not a stop, but a flow. But then, at one point, this used to happen, but through apprenticeship, which was long and arduous. And then the world, metaphorically speaking at least, was smaller. Today, in the globalized, distributed, but connected world that we live in, apprenticeship is being replaced by virtual communities of practices, interest groups, and networks. Learning from the experience of others has never before been this easy, and never before so important and so critical. Understanding is socially constructed, and there is no boundary to the social anymore. And that brings me to my favorite quote. Self-education is, I firmly believe, the only kind of education there is. And that's it. Thank you. But the talk will be incomplete if I don't show you the sources of influence, at least some of them, very few up here. And I'm happy to share my delicious links with anyone who wants those. Thank you.
Learning. And you said you were afraid to start
in the beginning.
diving into the network.
Yes, yes. S-
They will talk about that. This new thing called motivation in online.
Yes. I think what happened was when I sort of chanced upon Twitter, it was very, very, I didn't know, I didn't expect anything. I didn't even know what it was. But when I started interacting, and not even interacting, when I just started tweeting a few links here and there and generally following people, and then I stumbled upon LearnChat, I just lurked. For a long time, I lurked to see what people were saying, what they were doing, if there was any kind of behavior patterns, any kind of do's and don'ts. And at that point, I was also reading Etienne Wenger's Cultivating Communities of Practice. So some of the norms of that community, which though not stated upfront, sort of emerged. And I was interacting one-on-one with some of the other members who were part of the LearnChat group per se, which made it easier for me later on to become a more, if you might say, a more intimate participant later. But I think in any communities, it happens that you move from being a lurker to the center and then perhaps being a lurker again, depending on where you are and how much that what the community is discussing at that point of time is important for you. Sure. I need to detach.
You accepted the change of learning.
Hello. The reason I'm asking this question is that many teachers
Yeah.
in the Middle Age, they're showing resistance to change in the way
Right.
they teach and many things.
Right.
And they're finding it difficult to learn themselves and better equipped with the time to
Right.
teach better.
Right.
So in this way, you've been trying to do something on adult learning.
Right.
How did you feel? Because you said I heard about that you didn't have the internet or something like that.
Yeah, internet
Yeah, yeah.
access and.
But when the change of learning took place, that you felt easy to adopt to the new way of learning, or did you find it? Oh, it's
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Perhaps let me rephrase and to see if I've understood you correctly. I believe what you're trying to say is, did I find adapting to a new way of learning myself an easy thing, or was it difficult?
Yeah.
Okay, now I'll try and address it a little differently, because I think learning explicitly or implicitly leads to a behavior change. If I've learned something, my behavior changes. And if that happens, I don't think it can be a very easy thing. Because at the end of the day, I'm changing the way I interact with whatever it is, and the way the manifestation of my behavior is going to change. And that is always going to be a tough thing. It's not easy. But what helped me was when I saw other people also going through the same change. So LearnChat, I think if I hadn't found that, I don't know, it may have been much more difficult than it was. But when I saw another 200 people doing the same thing, going through the same process, the same learning curve, it made it easy for me as well. So we learn from each other's mistakes and experiences.
Okay. Finally, what you advocate or advise to any other teachers or anybody who would like to learn in the middle age?
I would say, and which I hope this talk will at least be that little bit of an awareness, I would say that if we have an internet connection today and a computer access, we definitely should try and build our network. And it is not necessarily only with the person sitting next to you, like Clark also said, may not be the person that you can build a network with from a professional growth perspective. That person may not be may not have the learning or the knowledge or that what you're looking for. So I would say it would be wonderful if we think about how building networks and collaborative learning can help us, because I don't think no amount of teacher training schools will address all the problems that we have today, unless teachers themselves also think that we have to learn and grow all the time.
Thank you.
I had one small question. You've already answered a part of it. It was a nice learning experience for me today, and I'm not too much into social media.
Okay.
But as the editor of a People and Management magazine, I wanted to ask your views on, since you are totally into social media and it is a very nice kind of informal learning experience, I would like to know what are the challenges, if any, of managing people on an informal level through social media by being just a part of it.
See, I don't
If
think,
any.
first of all, I don't think I would try to manage people
Like
at all.
self-management
There is,
versus people
so,
management.
see, if, again, this ties back to what, say, Stephen was saying in the morning, George said in the morning. We had this slight channel chat also about Twitter being an elitist thing. We don't know yet. But what I'm saying is, rather than trying to manage, if we can inspire people or make people want to learn or make people want to just converse, I think that is the first step. If people starts to talk, and if similarly passionate and similarly interested people get together and talk, learning is bound to happen. It's an outcome. I think so. Yes.
Can't take it.
Yeah. We can take this offline.
Hello?
Hello.
Can we?
Yes, this is
Can we take
Hanan.
the? Can we take the next
just
questions?
a small question,
Can we take
sir.
it offline next one?
We'll take only the few seconds.
Yeah, but answer might take 15 minutes.
We can talk over
It's only the reality.
Okay, go ahead.
The ma'am was telling about only the virtual or on the vertical line or online social responsibility and learning, etc., etc., etc. But what about the ground level? In India, we require the more learning and educating in the ground level instead of the online. So please.
See, I think, again, I don't think so if there's a spectrum, right? There is a spectrum from formal to informal, from top-down learning to pull learning. We can't cover everything with one single solution. So I'm not saying joining Twitter is one, silver bullet to learning or becoming an expert. All I'm saying is the network can become a very important ingredient to our entire learnscape, to use Jay's